Is the Crypto Clarity Act going to bring clarity to the crypto charts and usher on a new alt season? Will the dollar keep dropping and sending ES to all-time highs? Let's dive in and talk about it. So the first thing I want to start out here is the news. I'm not really a fundamentals guy, but I do think news can drive the markets, especially in this day and age when a tweet triggers algos to buy or sell depending on what the news is. I do trading around some news events because it is quite volatile and it can lead to quick profits. The main reason a lot of people don't trade the news is because it's not a binary trade per se. Good earnings could lead to a drop in price, and bad earnings can lead to a pump in price. So you never really know how the market's going to react. If the market's already built it into the price. And that brings me to the Crypto Clarity Act here. We have a hard date right now of May 14th. So mark that calendar, and it's at 10:30. You're going to expect some volatility around there. Maybe not at that exact time, but as they vote on it or as they talk about it, things might start happening. I guess one of the big hurdles that they were looking at as far as interest goes is holding stable coins, and how all the DeFi situation is going to work out has been resolved, and they have some different ways of looking at it. Again, I'm not a fundamentals guy, so definitely do your own research on that if you're interested in that. TLDR, definitely looking at this date. Maybe it'll bring some clarity, and maybe that's why all these alts are pumping now. This will affect some of the bigger names, some of the US names, ADA, XRP, Link, and all the other ones. And then DeFi is going to be cleared up as well. So there's been some headway on this, and they're coming closer to a deal, I believe. So definitely keeping an eye on this, and this could be the trigger that kind of sends it up. Again, this could be a sell the news event. This is where it comes in, that news events can go either way, depending on if it's baked in or if it's a surprise. So keeping an eye on this date, this is a good narrative that could push crypto up. But again, these pumps could just be BS, trickery, and then we're going to get dumped on when this all comes out. So we're going to keep the news in mind. We're going to keep the charts as our primary plan, and entries and exits and all that kind of stuff. But with the news out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the charts. All right, starting here on the Bitcoin chart, I got my counts laid out here. Bullish count is going to be a diagonal on the 1, 2, and then we have another 1, 2 possible setting up, or we have a 1, 2, 3 coming in. On the bear side, I have this as a possible completing zigzag or some kind of sharp corrective move in an ABC. Primary move here is the diag here in the 1 or the A. We have a nice clean anchor in the 2 or the B. And then we have this move here that's a little bit questionable as to where we actually are. We don't have solid anchor in here that I say we can base things off of, in my opinion, at this point. Could go either way. Is it a completed impulsive move up? Are we still completing? That's still open for interpretation at this point. And I think the main POI and level I'm watching for the count is 75K here. This is the pivot of interest kind of for both bulls and bears. This is the point where we have a possible, if this is a wave 5 or if this is some kind of motive move up, this is where we get a clean break of the higher low. And this is the pivot that would tell us kind of where we are in the count. So far on the bullish end, again, Bitcoin is doing kind of the minimum it has to. It's breaking pivots that have been played as resistance in the past, and has flipped them into support and putting in higher lows and higher highs. And that continues even here on the smaller degree at 79.5. This is the first level of interest that I'm watching to see if we end up breaking down here, because this area has played as resistance in the past. And if we could flip this into support, that'd be one thing that the bulls would want to look for, is in continuation to the upside. Now, again, there's no invalidation here until we get this pivot of interest break at 75, and we can retrace all the way in here before we get another move up. So this is pretty key up here on how we move down. If we're going to move down an impulsive move, then that would lean us towards looking for a correction back to this 80.7 level. I'm looking for continuation to the downside. If not internal to this move up here, a break of that, and then continuation further down. Again, we do have a long way to 65K and 60K, so the bulls can keep claiming this is just a secondary leg up, the wave 1 of 3, if you will. So there are some far pivots before we actually invalidate the complete bullish side of things. Again, it's all going to be on how we move from here. Are we going to come down corrective, or are we just going to dump straight down? So the main levels we're going to watch here is how we retrace from here, and then 75K. If we can continue up, then I'm looking up toward 87 to be the next area of interest for the bulls on the higher end. To go back to the bearish side of things here, we are hitting and reacting off of more of the bearish or corrective interpretation of the counts than we are of the bullish. Bullish right now, we are getting higher highs and higher lows and breaking levels and flipping them into support at the lesser degrees, but we're hitting Elliott Wave, most likely targets for a sharp corrective move. We're hitting the one-to-one of the primary actionary wave and the secondary actionary wave. Hitting one-to-one there. We're hitting the outer parallel of the base channel here. This move up is a lot more complex and it's not a straight shot up. So we are hitting more bear, most likely targets in the Elliott Wave side than we are bull. Again, looking at those as anchors, right now I think the bearish side has more evidence to it than the bullish side. Now, again, if something happens and we end up getting a sharp move up in a wave 3, things are going to change, and then so is my count. But right now, we have to consider that because of all these clues adding up, the case is more on the bear side than the bull at the moment. Now, is this just meaning we could come down and correct and continue on? That's definitely still possible. And again, it's all on how we react from here. Is it going to be a straight shot down, breaking some levels with force? Or are we going to come down correctively, some hesitation before we get to move up? And that's what I'm watching for here on BTC. Down here on the 1 hour Bitcoin chart, last week we were watching for sideways and a move up in a potential impulsive move. I did end up playing this area down here, and I'm still in this long, actually. I took profit on the way up. I was expecting these to be at least swept, so I did use that as my primary trade idea, and I set up a trade idea around that. I'm still in it because I still hasn't come back to hit my stop loss yet. So I'm still waiting to see how this resolves here. It's not the cleanest look by any means, but I think the main thing here, when the Elliott Wave is unclear, I kind of have to shift all my tools around and see what I have as far as geometry and levels. And right now, the one thing that pops out to me is the levels here reacting and playing as support and resistance pretty blatantly. And that's going to be my main key or main tool that I'm keeping an eye on here, is how we're going to react to these levels. So right now, we have some equal lows here down at 79.5. If we can get a nice breakdown, I think we have a potential for an impulsive move down, and then that's going to move my directional bias to down. Printing an impulsive move in either direction is a nice anchor for a possible identification on which direction the market wants to move. So if we get a nice clean impulsive move down here, we haven't invalidated yet, but we have to finish this pretty quick here. So if we get a sweep of this level and a reclaim in a corrective mode, then I'm going to be looking for a move down. If we end up staying corrective up here and moving up, that's great. Again, I don't have a lovely count I like in here because of all this mess. But if we can hold this level and continue up, we're still putting in the basics for an uptrend at this point, in my opinion, where we're putting in higher highs and higher lows, and we're just continuing the trend, the upside. So as far as the weekend goes, I've been a holding pattern here on Bitcoin. Not a whole lot of clarity here. It's all going to be on if we sweep this level or if we continue up from here on what I'm going to do next. Either case, I'm still in the trade. I still have my stop losses in profit right now. So I'm happy with that and just holding on and seeing where the next play is, because I don't see one at the moment up at this high. If you think this is the end, of course, it's an aggressive trade up here. We did get a nice reaction down off of areas of interest on the Elliott Wave side, so this could be it. On the conservative side, we still need a pattern that we recognize to the downside, and then look for that internal retracement to that impulsive move or motive move for confirmation that the trend might be changing, and then we look for a short. That's how we play the top in a more conservative fashion. In that case, we have a stop at this pivot high. We have a nice risk to reward if this does end up moving down, even for an internal retracement to this move up. So that's what I'm watching for, is clarity on the more conservative side. I do have a more aggressive short here due to all of this confluence up here, but I think the next add or the next conservative sell is going to be a move down from here and then an internal retracement. That's what I'm looking for here on BTC. Let's go ahead and move on to the ES. All right, here on the ES, we zoomed out to the 4 hour. I still think this is the more conservative count. An even more conservative count is that we're done with this last little peak high that we had on Friday as an all-time high. It's still ripping. We still don't know for sure, but I think this is a decent count at the moment just to explain why we haven't broken any of these highs and that we're still just extending in the wave 5 here. Bigger picture. We are losing some momentum here, so is this the best spot to take a loan? Not necessarily. If you have any trust in Elliott Wave, we might want to take a little step back or take some pressure off, if you will. But if we're going by the counts here, this is starting to look a little bit more like we're coming to an end at this point. But we did have a nice swift move up here, and now we're starting to drag out a little bit more, and the slope is becoming less and less sharp as we move up. Let's zoom into the 1 hour and take a look there at the highs. All right, down here on the 1 hour, again, the Elliott wave isn't perfect in here, so we'll have to consider that for sure. But if we're taking just the pivots here, we can see that this pitchfork has been playing pretty good and as harnessing it, and we have price moving around center of the median line of the pitchfork. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I will take it off for now. But you can also see here that the algos have been having some fun. We have a bounce out of the golden zone, making that last move a golden corner pocket, and we did hit the median line of the pitchfork as well. And we've clearly hit all the algo targets. Same thing with this larger retrace here after we have this move up and an impulsive move, I think. Got a nice retrace down to the 50 and minimum, probably 618. Not quite the 618. We got to move to the 50, and then we got some reactions up at the targets as well. So you can see here we had a little reaction at 236 and a hit here at the 618. The next target is up at 74.5, and that puts us into the deeper retrace for the wave 5 at the larger degree. This one is the 1-to-1 of my proposed wave 1 off of the wave 4. So we are getting in some wave 5 territory. Taking some of the stuff off for clarity as far as the Elliott wave goes. But we do have some separation between corrections, which can mean that we are still putting in higher highs and higher lows, and this could be still an impulsive move up. We haven't broken or overlapped any pivots, which is a good sign for the bulls, but we don't really have too much of an anchor. This could be the swift move in the wave 3. Because of the separation, this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're just slowing down for the wave 5. We're getting ready to roll over. But one thing we want to keep an eye on then is where we are in the larger count. Again, we do have some little bit of overlap, which I would conclude that would put us in a smaller degree to this move potentially. So if we are continuing this count up and I have this labeled correctly, we would expect another pullback and then one more move up for a potential top, putting us into the most likely target for a wave 5 up here between 76K and 75K. Where we're actually going to be wrong and start getting concerned is if we start breaking down this level at 73.36. I think this is the main POI we have to keep an eye on. Once this breaks, we could get some clarity, especially after we broke this high. This is all we really need for an impulsive move is 5-wave structure. And breaking this would help us conclude that at least we've completed this lesser degree motive move up, and then we're looking for an internal correction to the last motive move up at the higher degree. So long story short, DOI here to keep an eye on for ES is 733625. If we break that, then we get some clarity on our count. We get some continuation up. Hopefully that'll lead to some clarity as well. But I think we're sputtering out of energy and we're potentially getting close to a top. But until we get that impulsive break of this level, we could still keep going up. And as you can see on the EWO, we are getting some divergence where we're putting in a higher high here in price, and we're putting in an equal high on the EWO. So again, is the top in? Not 100%. Is there more fuel in the tank? I think there is, and we'll look at DXY next and add some more to that thesis that the up move isn't done yet. Here on the DXY, I think we have a nice anchor in the form of a zigzag move. I did post this in the Discord when it was happening. In both cases, we bounced off the 618 out of the algo zone, and at this point when we hit the 1-to-1 and the base channel parallel. Using this, again, I've been using DXY as my anchor to play as a directional indicator for my ES trades. I actually did take a trade on the ES at the same time. You can see the pivots correlate at 7th of May at 1800. Same kind of thing. When this started rolling over, the other ES started pumping. and moving up. And the big thing that this is telling me with this zigzag is that there's a potential that we're going to come down and at least sweep this at the origin of the zigzag, which would lead me to conclude that we're going to be heading down in the DXY, and this being my main directional indicator, because we're going to move down in DXY potentially, ES is going to continue its move up. So here on the 4-hour, last week we were looking for a move down, or we had this move down, and we were looking for an internal retracement before continuation to the downside, and it played out beautifully, very technical on DXY, bounced out of the algo zone, and we got a nice motive or impulsive move down. One thing I want to point out real quick is that we are in a bounce area that we have bounced from before, or after we've broken it, we've moved far enough away from it to consider it no longer in play. It has played as support in the past, resistance here, support a little bit as we bounce, but we've been bouncing off this level quite a bit. Harkening back to some of my earlier videos, the more we touch a level, the more likely it is to break. At least that's what they say. So because this is touched so many times and the bounces keep getting weaker and weaker, I think there is a chance that we're going to roll over and break this level. And not after that, after we break that level, it's a matter of, are we going to continue on and sweep this low of the impulsive range, or is this just an internal retracement to this level, and then we're going to finish our retracement here and head back up? That's what I'm watching for here on the DXY. We do have some things to consider. Either this is a super bearish 1-2 and we're just going to dump to hell, or there's a potential we could be putting in some kind of ending diagonal that would offset this potential impulsive move that we have. Now, if you think this is corrective, this could be an A, B, C, X, and then we're putting in some kind of motive move down in the form of a leading diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get some kind of corrective here, and then we finish the leg down for an internal correction before we get a blast up. So there's a couple ways this could play out and a couple ways we could count this, but right now, both of them are pointing down, and that's a huge directional weighted bias there, is that both counts are pointing in the same direction at the moment. I wish I traded Forex or knew how to. I think this is a pretty strong indicator. Luckily, the ES, like I said, has been my main correlated asset that I'm trading based off of this. But I think right now we're still looking for a down for at least a sweep of the 97 level, if not further down. So I'm keeping an eye on this. Again, if we do think this is some kind of diagonal, I think we're done at this point. So we'd have to see what this zigzag, this beautiful zigzag, is attached to. We could be putting in some kind of flat or something before we get a move down. Or this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get a breakdown. We do have a lot of room to play with as far as the rules and the guidelines show. So we can go all the way down to this level here before we invalidate the more strict version of the rules and ending or leading diag. But DLDR, looking for a move down for at least a break of this low. Move down here, if my thesis is right, is going to drive ES to the upside and continue the upside. And until the DXY finishes, and whenever it's done with this move down and starts bouncing up, that's going to be a headwind for ES and all the other assets. I think that's when we're going to see the retrace on ES and on Bitcoin and all the other assets. At least it's going to be tougher for them to move up while the DXY is climbing, if it does. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into some alts now. All right, going to start out the alts here with CHIP. I think we have a nice, clean, impulsive move up. Yesterday, I posted this on X, and we've been playing out the path ever since then. If you don't follow me on X, I would definitely recommend you go check me out there. But I think we have a nice impulsive move out of that area of interest for the most likely target for a wave 5, and we're moving down impulsively. So the next setup I'm looking for is a wave C3 setup to the upside to play this bounce if we get it. Typically, I like to look for a break of the wave 4 as even more confluence that the wave up is done at that degree. But I think this motive move down here is projecting that it's most likely done, and there's a potential for some further retrace or some further downside. So right now, I'm watching for this move down here to end with a bounce up in a motive fashion, and then a retrace to that inner motive move for a C3 setup to the upside, potentially just up to this most likely target for wave B or 2. Again, we could put a 3A2 on here. We'll have to see how this all plays out, but this is the ideal area for me to look for a C3 setup to the downside. And then if this ends up playing ideal and we end up coming to this 15618 between 6.3 cents and 6 cents, then I'll be looking for a C3 setup to the upside. So finding a nice clean anchor is key to all Elliott Wave trading, and impulse being one of the bigger ones, obviously. So this is what I'm looking for here on chip. The ONDO was another chart that I posted on X yesterday as well. We have this nice rip up. But just like some of these other alts that we've been seeing, we've come out of questionable areas here as far as the Elliott Wave goes. We got a lot of sideways chop and nothing super clear in here, and then we all of a sudden get a rip up. So as Elliotticians, we kind of have to go back and figure out, are we going to consider this first of all? And then what are we really dealing with here? I haven't dug in here at all, to be honest with you. I look for anchors in the counts and then build off of that, for better or for worse. But I think there's only really two ways that we can justify this move. Either it's a B triangle or it's a complex sideways correction for the wave 2 or a wave B still, or even a wave, this could be a wave X. So we just have some ugly sideways chop action here as for our correction, and then we get a blast up. This is typical wave 3 price action. So using this as my anchor now, I have to kind of work my way backwards and see where we are in the count. And this could still be a lot of things just because we don't know exactly what's going on with this. And because it's so convoluted, we have to take some other things into consideration. I don't think that's enough for a trade at that point. I think we still have to see how this all develops here after we get this move up. Is this some kind of 1, 2, and then this is 1, 2? Is this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is this an A, B, C? Is this just a pump and a dump? We still have to kind of find out here. It's all going to be on how we retrace. And I'm watching these key levels to see, first of all, if they hold as support or flip to support, or if they're even respected at all. So the main level here that we were kind of looking at is 44 cents, just because it's played as support in the past. And then when it came back, it played as resistance, and we got the biggest dump overs yet. We did sweep this pivot, which is a good sign. But now how far down are we going to trace, and where are we in the count, I guess, is the big question. I think it's a little late to jump in. There's always a way we can justify our entries, but I think from here, the more conservative end, it's not a great spot. We want to see it settle down here and give us a little bit of a correction, potentially to these levels here, 44, 40, 36, and 32. And I'm going to wait and see how we react at these levels. So I have all these alarmed, and then if we end up hitting them, I'm going to see where we are in the count. If we're doing some kind of sideways, then I would lean more toward a wave 4, and then we're going to pop up. If we come down nice and corrective like this, again, corrective, there's a potential it's a 1, 2, 1, 2 setup. But the first thing I'm looking for is this initial move down. Are we going to complete this move down as a motive wave, and then are we going to correct up? If that happens, I think I'm going to be looking for a potential short just to play the retrace on this if this does end up coming further down. This just go for all the other alts that kind of look like this. They have some garbage gay down here and a quick move up. Again, wave 3s can be huge anchors. But I think this one is more of a wait and see for me. And that's it for ONDO. Now we're looking at SUI. SUI still has some question marks around it just because of what we have coming down from the top here. We have a nice clean zigzag move here, I would say. But then we have some of these corrections up here that I don't think have been fully offset quite yet. Again, it all depends what we think this is at the larger degree. If this is some kind of WXY, then we could be done if we have some kind of A, B, C, and then we're done here. But again, we have some bearish looking price action here as well, just like some of the other alts. Now, are we going to blast up above this and get to 131? It's possible. On the Elliott side here on the 4 hour, there's not a whole lot of ideal price action to kind of base anything off of as far as where we think we are in the count. This could be some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when we pop up above it. So that would be the next thing I'm watching for. So this level here at 105 needs to be broken and flipped, or just pushed up and away from and blasted up through. And then the next level of interest that we have to pay attention to on SUI is 131.58. This would be the next level I'd be looking for a reaction. We can break above this and flip it into support with a corrective move. I think that might be worth an entry just to play the potential flip of this level. And again, it all comes back to the more times we touch a level, as they say, the more likely it is to break above. Right now, I think we just have a breach and there's a possibility we could just roll over again. So it's a little sketchy here to try and anticipate this breakout. Everything else is kind of breaking out and up out of garbage like this. So it is a potential that this one moves, but I don't think this is a super clear setup as far as the long goes. That can all change if we get a nice impulsive move up here and then a correction back to this level. Then I'd be looking for a potential for a long entry there. So that's it on SUI. PENGU or Pudgy Penguin is the next alt here that we're going to look at. It's another alt that comes from some questionable origins here. Could be counted a couple different ways. Is it a 1, 2, 3? And then we're going to be putting in a 4 here soon. We did it as 618. Is this a truncation and this is the primary move up? A couple questions here, but so the main thing I'm watching for whenever that happens is how we're going to react now from here. But we do have a bit of momentum up. So right now I'm going to be watching this retrace and looking to see how we retrace. Are we going to get a swift move down that breaks this level with the motive wave, and then we're going to get a correction up? If that happens, I'm going to be looking for a move to the downside. If we end up staying up here and correcting and doing something like this, then that would lean more toward a wave 4 is coming in, and that'd be looking for a pop up at least. There's also a chance that, again, if this is the primary actionary wave here, it could be, and even if this is a secondary actionary wave, there's always a chance that this could be some kind of 1-2-1-2 situation that we're going to blast up. So the main levels I'm watching here, if we do get a retrace, is 9461, and then the lowest I really want to see it due to the fact that it is a level of interest here, as it's played as support in the past, resistance, even at the smaller degree, it played as support before we got a blast above it. I think this is the key level that if we start breaking below that, we have some question marks that need to be answered and things become less likely. And this is right in the ideal entry zone where the algos are sitting and waiting. So again, this area between 1/9 of a cent and 1/8 of a cent, I think, is going to be key for PENGU here. And that's what I'm watching for, is a retracement on this as well. I'm looking for a long. Any swift move down, I'll be keeping an eye on these levels still as a place to potentially add confluence to a short entry. That's just what I'm seeing for now. As always, I'm just rolling with the waves as they print. If you have a different take or see something I don't, drop a comment down below. I read everything. If you enjoy this kind of technical analysis and Elliott Wave breakdown, please give me a like and follow. I appreciate it. Come follow me over on X as well. I post there a lot more, to be honest. If you want to learn more about technical analysis, I would definitely recommend coming over and checking out TradeDevils.com and enrolling in Trade Devils University. You can try it out for free here with the White Belt course. And if you like the information that is given in the way that it's given, you can move on to the other belt courses and add on to your technical analysis knowledge as you go. That's all I got for today. Trade safe, trade clarity. Take it easy. Later.